Hi everyone, welcome to Some Value. So today we're looking at Firefly Aerospace, and this is another end-to-end space company. It's very similar to Rocket Lab, and if you pay attention to this channel, we do talk about it occasionally, and it's one of the star performers when you look at the stock market. Like the last trailing 12 months for Rocket Lab, they've gone up 279%. Which is incredible. Whereas we look at the last trailing 12 months of Firefly Aerospace, negative 57% because of some failures in terms of launch. But if they can figure out those problems, then I think it has a lot of potential to kind of follow in Rocket Lab's kind of pathway. So in terms of revenues, Rocket Lab probably is about 600 million in revenue if we count the close of the recent quarter. And if we look at Firefly Aerospace, we're probably looking about 300 million, including the acquisition of SciTech. So SciTech was an 855 million kind of acquisition, 300 million in cash, 550 million in stock. But if we actually look at the stock price that it was acquired, it was about $50 at the stock price, so almost half. So technically, if we count as dilution, right now it's nearly half basically, in terms of, because we're looking at Firefly at $30, whereas this was signed at a $50 price tag in terms of shares. And this is a company that generates 164 million in the last 12 months. So if we look at kind of where Firefly Aerospace was in the third quarter, it kind of showed an increase of 98% on the previous quarter and an increase of 38% on the prior year quarter, which, you know, decent growth numbers. These guys did send a lunar lander called Blue Ghost to the moon, which was the first successful one. Like, we talk about intuitive machines as well, and they have reached the moon, but it's always tipped over. And I'm still very bullish about intuitive machines as well, but Firefly Aerospace has actually been successful, like full out successful, nothing tipped over. They got there, so I think they also have an important part to play with, you know, NASA's kind of focus on the moon. So we'll talk about a lot more going after this in the video. Of course, we'll just talk about the revenues right now. So the SciTech acquisition only just closed, so the third quarter did not actually include any SciTech kind of revenues. But this the recent quarter that's closed does. So we've got the guidance about 150 to 158 million. So we add in the other revenues, maybe it probably includes about 30 million of that from the SciTech in this guidance. So if we kind of include, say, like 160 minus 30, that's 134. And we add it onto this, we're getting about close to about 300 million, give or take, probably 250 to 300 if you want to be very pedantic about where it could be. But yeah, like that just puts it about halfway with Rocket Labs in terms of revenue, and they were very successful in getting to the moon. That's something that Rocket Lab doesn't specialize in terms of, say, like lunar landers. So it is in a sense good at some things that Rocket Lab isn't, you know. And Rocket Lab is trading at 49 billion and they're trading at 4.7. So you get where I mean by this company could eventually, do a really good performance if it could match kind of Rocket Lab in terms of consistency. Not entirely about numbers, but consistency. So if we look at what they offer, so if you don't understand a company in terms of its products, they basically have Alpha, which is their kind of small rocket that they've had 2 successful missions out of 6, and then we've got number 7 here, which apparently in the coming weeks they will be flying. And then we've got SciTech, which is basically going to specialize in the software side of things with an AI enabled system. And we've got basically Eclipse, which is their larger rockets, in a sense basically rivaling Rocket Lab's Neutron, which they're both building. So like these guys started a few years ago. I think Rocket Lab started slightly earlier than them, and they should have their rockets, close. Like Rocket Lab probably this year. I'd say Firefly probably next year. Like if they do get things right, potentially it could be end of the year. But based on how consistent they have been with their inconsistent with their small rocket, I would say the execution qualities may just delay them. So I'd say possibly maybe next year. So you can kind of see some similarities. Like they also have a small rocket and they're also working on a large rocket. And also they've got Electra, which is going to be like a vehicle that goes into space and kind of it has multiple qualities. It's not just a satellite. It's as a vehicle that can do multiple things that a satellite can't. So you basically sums up their whole business, and they're managing to do all right. They're generating some decent revenues, which is what's nice about the company, even though it's having some inconsistency issues. It doesn't rely entirely on their own launch. They've got other companies that they just say, like SpaceX. They'll put their lunar lander or whatnot on there, and then they get into space that way. But if they can send their own stuff into space, obviously that starts to open much better and bigger opportunities going forward. So you can see what I mean by this company has potential, but obviously it's lacking consistency in terms of getting, every launch to be successful. They have done a revised kind of upgrade for Alpha, so they will do Flight 7 in the coming weeks, and then the next one, Alpha Flight 8, will be a revised kind of design that basically, as they say, makes it more, reliable. So hopefully that is the case. So I think at this kind of share price, you're kind of, in a sense, getting a very, very good quality acquisition, like kind of value in terms of a stock. So yeah, that's kind of what I think anyway, in terms of an opportunity that's very similar to SpaceX, Rocket Lab, that they want to specialize in so many things. They are making acquisitions along the way as well. And yeah, like if they just get things right, by the time SpaceX kind of goes for an IPO, I think this valuation really, really jumps, because people start to look at the companies, they start to compare, and they go, oh, actually, this one's kind of like a hidden gem. Like, the minute they succeed at being consistent with their rocket, then people go like, oh, well, what's the difference between Firefly Aerospace and Rocket Lab? Because if they both have consistent small rockets, and they're both working on much larger rockets, then the similarity is not that much different, except obviously some revenues as well. And I think Firefly Aerospace also hits quite a lot of kind of targets when we consider what the current administration is kind of thinking. NASA wants to go to the moon. We've got Firefly Aerospace that's been the only company that's basically been successful entirely getting to the moon and executing, and yeah, like they will probably be another, on NASA's kind of speed dial in terms of getting more kind of contracts going forward. Their SciTech acquisition was actually for more for like defense, like it bolsters their kind of capabilities in terms of their software, but it's actually a really good defense play as well. So you think about Golden Dome and all that, it's basically kind of targeting that. So, and it kind of just fills out what they're not good at. So they're okay at launch, the land and orbit, they're reasonable, and then they were not great at the software side. So I think it just ties up in terms of what they're not good at. And I think it just slowly combines to build a very good end-to-end space company that only Rocket Lab and SpaceX kind of rival. And it's basically, you don't really get many other kind of companies that are, in that innovative curve, doing everything. Yeah, so I think 4.7 billion, it's definitely something to consider in terms of this. Like, as I say on the title, it is a wild card because there's a lot of inconsistencies. The next launch, it may or may not succeed, and that could just have the share price in kind of a mixed reaction. But in the longer term, if they can succeed, then yeah, the valuation definitely can, go multiple times upwards, to catch up with Rocket Lab in terms of a similar multiple. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, or if you've got any questions, post below. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.